All it took was a little investigative reporting, a little news story by the I-Team in Los Angeles, and the LA mayor, Karen Bass, had said, no, we don't have any plans. We don't really have the ability to handle this big, huge RV encampment clear out. So nothing on the horizon now. I-Team story comes out, boom, city's on it. Yeah, we figured out a way to get it done. It's kind of like San Francisco with the whole APEC conference coming into town. For years and years and years, they can't get certain areas of the city cleaned up. And oh, yeah, they're coming to town. The president of China is coming to town. A bunch of other dignitaries. Let's clean her up. Let's get her. Oh, miraculously, we have found the will to get it done. What's it look like in LA with all the big RV encampments? Let's check it out. After I-Team report, LA mayor says she now has plans to dismantle the RV encampments. Do you or don't you? What are you doing? Should have never allowed this stuff to get set up in the first place, right? But that would have taken political will well above what we're dealing with. What we're dealing with is we are dealing with cities that have been so run poorly that this has become the norm. All right, big, huge, crappy RV. RVs just boom, 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 all down a street. That has become the norm, both sides of the street. Then you got adjoining neighbors screaming and bitching. Oh, we don't want this. They're emptying their sewage right onto our street. It smells terrible. And then the advocates are saying, that's just because you don't want them in your backyard. And the homeowners are like, that's absolutely right. They're terrible. Look at them burning up. Look at this RV burning up. Look at the prostitution going on. Look at the stolen goods. Look at the drugs. Look at the needles. Look at the excrement. Just got this thing going, right? And without putting any of these folks into treatment, whether that's jail, mental health care, or addiction services, you're not really ever going to solve the problem. So we're just going to keep talking about it. RV encampments bring drugs and crime and human waste into neighborhoods, residents say. That's an easy one, right? Let's watch a little video. Let's take a look, quick peek here.
A report aired about the dangers of homeless RV encampments. LA Mayor Karen Bass's office tells NBC4 for the first time it now has plans to dismantle some of them. Now, that is an abrupt about face from what the mayor's office had been telling us, which was that it didn't have a plan or the resources to tackle the problem. The I-Team's Joel Grover broke the story.
Is somebody up for re-election? Good Lord, that news story came out. Oh, yeah. We should do something. Let's clean that up. Let's clean up that bad boy.
Last night, he is here with us now and has the latest. Joel.
It's the I-Team.
Well, Kathy, earlier this week, city officials invited the media to watch the city dismantle one huge RV encampment on Forest Lawn Drive. But at the time, the mayor's office told me that was the only one out of hundreds of such encampments that it planned to clear out. Then, hours after we first aired this report last night at 11 p.m., the mayor's office called me to tell me about a new plan.
Hey, we got a new plan.
Eye view of Forest Lawn Drive. For years, wall-to-wall RVs where people live, just like the I-Team has documented in neighborhoods across LA.
That guy doing tricep extensions.
Tapping into fire hydrants for water and cooking on open fires.
As you do.
From nearby apartments.
As you do.
Illegal practices, according to city officials.
Look at that sidewalk.
Afraid to walk by these RVs? I won't walk by them.
Adam Johansson
Good
lives
call.
in several RV encampments in the West San Fernando Valley, one of which went up in flames last year, threatening the houses just a few feet away.
Shenanigans.
In various parts of LA, RVs have burst into fireballs. Sometimes
what do you even say?
Barely making it out alive.
Look at this. Holy cow.
Drug deals, prostitution.
And then there's the raw sewage. The I-Team's cameras have more than once seen RVs dumping what smells and appears to be urine and human waste right into the street.
A dozen times or more, seeing them open the door, physically dump human waste in the
I've seen that.
About 19,000
So
people in
gross.
the LA area
So
live in
gross.
RVs and other types of vehicles. Many of them, like Aletha Reinhardt, say it's far preferable to living in a tent.
How is it living in an RV? Tell me.
To be honest and truthfully, I like it.
But housed residents are now demanding their elected officials do something about the RV encampments encroaching on their neighborhood.
The problem is, I would say that it's illegal. You can't just live in an RV on the side of a public street. That's meant for parking, people coming and going. That's not a legal residence area. And yet that has become the norm, right? So that's why we're covering this story, because the mayor is like, yeah, no plans. Oh, good Lord. Story came out. Oh, let's clear it.
We have seen a lot of crime and violence.
City Councilperson Tracy Park represents a part of LA's West Side with numerous RV encampments. As we were interviewing Park, we noticed a young family approaching an RV encampment right in front of a school and instead crossed the street to get by. Park now.
And that wasn't even a choice. They were not able to, they were going to be with a stroller and a kid. They're not able to get down the sidewalk. So, yeah.
A motion in front of the city council to ban or restrict oversized vehicle dwellings like RVs in residential areas and other sensitive uses like near schools.
They need to be in places where they are not directly and negatively impacting our schools, our communities, and our commercial corridors.
But some of her fellow council people disagree with her about a ban, and so does LA Mayor Karen Bass.
Are you in favor of banning RVs next to schools, next to residential neighborhoods?
Well, you know what? Before we do that, I think there's some other solutions.
Bass tells me if the city...
Like what? Like what? What do you got for me? I'd love to hear that. What do you got for me? We know that the sanctioned RV lots do not work. They get abandoned because nobody wants to live there, because it becomes such an absolute hellhole. Because you got all these folks living in there and they're trying to impose some rules on them. That doesn't work.
RVs in certain areas and inhabitants defied the bans, the city has only one truck capable of towing RVs.
You can ban all you want, then what are you going to do?
But after that interview, just this week, the city somehow gathered the resources to dismantle that huge RV encampment on Forest Lawn Drive.
Somehow. It's a miracle. It's a Christmas miracle, people.
To dismantle other encampments. Then Friday morning, the mayor's press secretary texted me saying, I can confirm to the NBC4i team exclusively that the city is currently looking to replicate this week's success at Forest Lawn Drive at RV encampments in South Los Angeles, on the West Side, and in the San Fernando Valley. Bass also tells me she wants to create safe parking lots where RVs can park off the streets.
We'll make sure that area has 24-hour security. We'll make sure that area has proper waste disposal and hygiene and service.
Okay, you do that.
To do something about this. Help us.
Now, within just the last
Help
few minutes,
us
the mayor's
help
office
you.
told me it plans to dismantle another RV encampment sometime in early 2024. I asked where that would be, but they didn't say. We will definitely stay on top of this story and see how Mayor Bass deals with the problem of hundreds of RV encampments all across LA.
All you're doing at this point in time by sweeping the camp is playing human whack-a-mole. You're people, most of those RVs aren't going to run, right? They're not going to start up. There's a reason these folks are living in them. It's because they're super affordable. They may not run. They're cheap. They're like one step, your next step down is a tent. So, unless you get these people some help, all you're doing is scattering them like a bunch of rats. You're literally scattering them to the four winds. When you sweep that particular street, they just go elsewhere, because this is the lifestyle that we have allowed them to lead, and the cat's out of the bag. And unless you get some people, some significant psychiatric and addiction services help, this isn't going to change. They're just going to go live somewhere else and do the exact same lifestyle that is dependent upon criminal activity, upon drugs, upon dumping stuff into the street, litter, garbage, prostitution, you name it, that whole ecosystem. TV cameras were rolling as the mayor's office made headlines Wednesday by giving the go-ahead to dismantle a huge RV encampment on Forest Lawn Drive, but initially said there were no plans to clear any of the other hundreds of other RV encampments across LA. Well, I guess the news team needs to go out and just start comforting them one after another, right? Hey, what about this one? Can you clean this one up? Because we all know that the ability to clean these bad boys up is there. What is that? What is that RV, the tow truck that tows RVs? How much does one of those cost? Is it $100,000? I have no idea. Is it 75 grand? I don't know. The city has a how many $billion budget, and this is a problem? You're telling me they can't go out and buy another couple of these if this was a real issue? If they had the president of China coming to town like San Fran did? Guys, we need to clean up this corridor right here. Do you think they could do it? We've already shown that they can. They've already shown that they can. They just choose not to. They choose not to. I think there are other solutions, Mayor Karen Bass told the IT. Like what? What would that be? What would that be? Other than she's talking about, a complete ban. Well, because you've allowed it to happen, this is on you. This is on you. But following an I-Team report that aired Thursday night, the mayor's spokesperson told NBC4, I can confirm we saw that part. When pressed for specific details and timing, the spokesperson would only say the next effort would happen in early 2024. So, we're running the city. We got all these problems. We know there's homeless people everywhere because all you can do is drive around and you can kind of see that. How about Skid Row? Are they ever going to do anything about that? Probably not, right? Because just the amount of resources it would take to clean that area up. And they literally created it. Skid Row. Long history there. I mean, that's where they literally would dump out people from the mental institutions and basically quadrant them off. And cops would say, no, you need to live in here because this is your new home. Enjoy. It's literally just like Escape from New York. Just quadrant off this area. With New York, it was, Manhattan, right? So got a little island action going on there. We learned a lot through the Forest Lawn operation and will apply best practices like resource allocation, including tow truck contracting, to ensure that we're able to move RVs out of the neighborhood where they should not be. But how are you going to do that throughout the whole city? And where are those people going to go? Yeah, those are questions that you don't have any long-term solutions for. You got nothing, and everybody knows it. And yet you've got residents like the kid in this video saying, yeah, can't be around this stuff. Across LA, housed residents have been telling the I-Team that they want the mayor to dismantle the encampments and ban them from areas like near schools and residential neighborhoods. They shouldn't be just banned in those areas. There's ordinance on the books where you just literally can't live on the side of the street in your broken down RV. That's not a thing. So, okay, next step, is everybody going to get their RV hauled to the RV lot? I mean, I haven't seen any ongoing examples where an RV lot is successful for like more than a couple of years. They usually just, start out all gung ho, but then eventually, there's enough shootings, enough stabbings, enough violence, and, overdoses. I haven't even talked about overdoses being a thing in these sanctioned encampments. Anywhere you've got a whole bunch of homeless people together, you've got the drugs. And the drugs now with fentanyl kill people, period. So, how are you going to, what does this look like moving forward? You can do all the bans you want and all the cleanouts you want, but it's whack-a-mole. These people are just going to come right back, right? And just continue their willy-nilly shenanigans and tomfoolery and whatnot, right? We see fights, we see drug deals, we see prostitution across the RVs. Pretty common. I mean, it's pretty common. And so now the story isn't, oh, no, they're the mostly peaceful protesters. We don't have that story at all, right? We know, because we've seen so many stories about the homeless encampments. Okay, yeah, that's not necessarily a good thing in your neighborhood, right? It's the exact opposite. It is the exact influence you do not want to raise your children around. How about that nice couple that was out for a walk with their kid, and they roll up on the encampment, and the mom's just kind of like, yeah, I think we hang a hard left 90 here. And, they go across but if you lived in that area, that's not an uncommon thing. All right, yeah, we got to make a detour. We got this ridiculous homeless encampment. We got this ridiculous RV encampment. We got some nut job walking down the street carrying a sword. He's got no shirt on, no pants on, and he's just whacked out of his mind. Let's cross the street. That is not an uncommon thing in these areas, right? So the fights, all the other crazy stuff. Johansson and his neighbors say that they see the RV occupants dumping human waste into the street. That is, yeah. And you smell it. When you're out in these areas, you smell it. Because guess what? LA? Yeah. You got a little bit thing called sunshine there where you don't have that as much here in Portland to Seattle. Plus, it doesn't rain there as often. Rains pretty often here. And it cleans the streets up a little bit. Yeah. Runs it off into the storm drain, and then all the fish get it, right? Marine life. Got a little boost of fentanyl and some meth in our storm drain off water. A dozen times or more, I've seen them open the door and physically dump human waste in the gutter. That's just the way it's done. That's what you do. I mean, the whole thing of allowing people to live just wherever. I mean, it's gone wildly sideways. And these folks know it. And they're all not in my backyard for a reason. I don't think not in my backyard is a bad thing. It's not a bad thing because it means people want to hold some semblance of rules within their community. And not in my backyard means in my residential backyard, don't stick a homeless encampment there. Don't allow the homeless to live there. Don't allow it to happen. Just hard no-go. And that's kind of the line that you have to hold. This RV encampment is the number one issue my office is receiving complaints about, said LA City Council person Tracy Park, who has numerous encampments in her West Side CD 11 district. You see these city council members who are just basically derelict from their duty. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing to clean this up? Well, I think there's other options that we should look at. We should reimagine. We should rethink, because they don't want to get caught in that crossfire of pissing off the activists who are on the far left, who a lot of times voted them into office. But then they also know they've got the residents in the area, in the community, in the neighborhood that voted them into office. They're pissed because all of this crazy stuff associated with RVs camped out and parked, permanently for all intents purposes, right? They need to be in places where they're not directly or negatively impacting our schools, our communities. If they are within the confines of the community, they are negatively impacting said community. And what I should say is that the further you move them out, the better it is for said community, with the exception of those right around in that further located out portion of the community, right? Some of her fellow council people disagree with her about an outright ban, and so does Karen Bass, the mayor. Before we do that, I think there's some other solutions. What? I'm open. I'm listening. There are none. Well, we could do community outreach. Yeah, haven't you been doing that? Don't you already spend billions of dollars on community outreach and harm prevention and clean needles, tinfoil and whatnot? You can ban all you want. Then what are you going to do? The city doesn't have the ability to tow, Bass said. No, the city has the ability to tow, just you're not doing it on a regular basis. And you don't want to. That's a cop-out. If you really wanted to get this cleaned up and done, you could pull resources from elsewhere, but you don't really want to do that. You don't want to spend the money on it. Because, so many of these RVs, where are they going to be taken? The one RV lot in Seattle where they get taken, it's been just overspilling for years. because there are so many junked RVs, right? On Friday, the mayor's office told the I-Team in the same way that there are plans to address street encampments throughout Inside Safe in the coming year. That was Karen Bass's new program when she got elected. The mayor's office plans to address RV encampments through Inside Safe, just like we did earlier this week at the Encampment in the Hollywood Hills and Forest Lawn Drive, where more than 50 RVs were moved. I mean, what? That must have taken forever, right? That must have taken forever. Bass tells the I-Team her plan is to identify places of city and county land to create safe parking lots where RVs can park away from residential neighborhoods. So that becomes in the industrial areas. And then the businesses in those areas get pissed off because now you've got the exact same shenanigans being brought from the burbs or closer in urban to the industrial sections. And they don't want that either. They're already struggling because they're in an area where you don't have a lot of people living there, meaning you don't have an overnight kind of watch system of people being there. Everybody goes home. So it's just an open invitation for anybody wanting to get their next fix to, jump in, break in, and steal some stuff. And it's just so straightforward. So when asked for a list of possible locations for safe parking lots for RVs, the mayor press secretary, Clara Kerger, told the I-Team that there's no list yet of areas that have been identified. They've got nothing. They've got absolutely nothing. This is a cleanup to, appease a news story. Oh man, that didn't make us look too good. I mean, we basically said, nope, there's nothing we can do to clean this up. We only got one tow truck. We know the will just isn't there. The way is there. You just put a bunch of resources into and clean it up. But then the long-term implication is they're just going to be right back. And the city knows that. So what do? We're just going to reimagine, retalk, and we're going to think about it a bunch. Hey, that whole Inside Safe thing, we're going to apply that again. We're just going to keep doing it. All right. And what's the end result going to be? Not much. It gets, lessen it up for the area for a little bit, but unless there is continued monitoring and continued, hey, you can't camp here. There's a ban here. Unless you keep that up, you're just going to have folks move right back in because that's how it goes. That's how it goes. But Howe's residents like Adam Johansson of the West Valley say the mayor and the city council have to dismantle the encampments and ban them from parking near houses and schools where they create fire, health, and safety hazards. I say to Mayor Bass, you're not doing what you promised, said West Valley resident Adam Johansson. You have to do something about the RVs. Help us, he added. Yeah. My whole thing is, I don't know that, long term, most of these cities do not have the resources to get this under control because they've allowed it to just get so badly out of control that, getting that genie back in the bottle, I don't know what it's going to take. And you're talking about the LAs, the San Frans, the Seattles in areas. Now, everybody says in Seattle, but downtown looks so much cleaner. Because it is, because they did the whack-a-mole to most of downtown. Because they know so much of their tax revenue comes from that area. Whereas Portland wasn't able to do that on so much of a scale. They weren't able to get ahead of that because they had so many things going on. And you've also got an issue in downtown Portland where businesses specifically don't want to be there because of all the shenanigans of the protesters, Antifa and Black Lives Matter. On top of, you've got situations in both cities, Seattle and Portland, where the work from home thing is much, much greater. And so all these downtown areas, they're pretty light on people. So you've got this crazy deal where you can, get people out that are homeless, but then all that does, get them out from downtown Seattle, it just moves them to the outskirts, right? It just moves them to somewhere nearby. And it doesn't really accomplish anything other than the folks like this guy, Johansson, being able to say, well, they cleaned them out. But then, when they come back, what a hopeless deal, right? That is a hopeless deal. Because unless you can get ahead of this and prevent it from happening in the first place, That is your best bet. Aside from that, it's a massive uphill battle because these people, they don't want to live in sanctioned RV lots. They don't want to live in sanctioned areas where the tents are put up. They don't want to live in shelters. They will take a tiny home, but the amount of resources it takes to provide so many people those type of structures don't have the bandwidth to do that. And you know what? Even if we did, for all the folks that are living out on the streets, the vast majority of them would not accept the kind of housing that's going to be available. Like, hey, go park your RV in this lot where you've got 200, folks, whatever it might be. Maybe it's 50. I don't know. But you've just concentrated again the criminality, aspect of it, and it's just gonna be the same damn thing from that residential neighborhood or wherever it was near a school that they've banned it. Now it's in a sanctioned parking lot, and you got 24-hour security, and there's no drugs, and you can't have other people in there. There's no pets. The list just goes on and on and on with restrictions. Those just don't work out. Those don't work out. So preventing it from your community, from this happening in your community, that is a massive, massive first step that I think you're not hearing a lot of people talk about because it's hindsight, right? It's after the fact. Well, this is here. There's not a lot we can do about it because the real solution is getting people off drugs. The real solution is getting people off the streets that are mentally ill, that this is their last resort. This is where they end up. The real solution is creating an environment where you don't have drug tourism, where you haven't decriminalized everything that these folks need to get their next fix, which is stealing and being able to convert said stolen products into cash for their next hit. And a lot of folks are like, yeah, but they're just down on their luck. No, that's not what's going on. For the vast majority of people we're seeing live on the streets in San Fran, in LA, in Portland, in Seattle, you've got an ecosystem that's based on drugs, period. Yeah. And now it's overdoses and all that good stuff. All right. That's it for me on this one. This one was an interesting one from the standpoint of, no, we can't clean it up. Wait, we got it cleaned up. Hey, we might do something next year, but give us credit for this one cleanup. It's exactly what you just saw right there. All right. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Oh, hey, the guy with the fiddle, the famous violinist, he got his violin back. Scottish fiddler gets beloved violin back after theft while touring in Portland. The super interesting thing, and I talked about this a little bit more in depth on video I recorded today. Hopefully you'll hear that one. So one thing I wanted to read from you from the guy who got his violin jacked and then got it back. What happened is somebody stole it, and he broke into this guy's car along with his musical partner. She got her bass stolen, her cello stolen. And so the people who stole it took it into a violin store and they sold it for $40. And then the store owner basically contacted this guy and said, hey, I think I got your piece. I mean, what a great story, because this never happens. So here's what the guy who got his violin stolen and then back said. So we don't get this kind of desperation on the streets, Fraser said, where people are breaking car windows and people are selling instruments for $40. It's sad commentary on the life we're living. So that commentary of it's a sad life we're leading from the guy getting his fiddle back, his violin back. That is exactly the thing we're talking about. Somebody stealing to get their next fix. $40. Yeah, you're golden for a while in Portland. Sad stuff, but I'm glad this one turned out well for the guy with his violin. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.